Hello, everybody, and welcome to the MIRE pregame show and one of my favorite interviews of the year as we get set to kick off the boys basketball season. I can't even say in 2021, in just 2020, rather 2020, 2021,
Yes.
just 21.
Yes.
The head coach of your boys basketball team, Kris Grundy. Coach.
Mr. Glock, how you doing, sir? It's been a while since we've done this, so it's good to be back for sure.
No doubt, I am well, and I'm just happy that we're sitting here, even though I can hardly see you. You know, you're incognito. I think it's going to be this way for a little while, and that's, better this and playing basketball than not at all.
100%, absolutely. Any chance we can to play, and especially let these three seniors that we have get back on the court and get here in the Cougar Den, whether there's, real fans or fathead fans or whatever it is. It's a tremendous opportunity. So.
Cool. Let's touch on that for 2 seconds. We don't need to spend all day on it. You guys obviously made the decision to invest in getting fatheads and kind of virtual fans as it were. Fantastic idea. Who came up with it and what's the genesis?
That would be Stephanie Prescott and Michelle Somborsky. This started in the summer, and I'm sure we'll get into that later on with all the training that we did in the summer. They showed up at Van Horn Park and didn't tell me why, but just kept snapping close-ups of my beautiful face. And at a six-man club meeting, probably in July, late July, early August, I arrived at a six-man club meeting, and there was a big cardboard cutout of yours truly. And I was like, what the heck are we doing here? And they were like, well, these are going to be our fans for the year. So we went from like full body shots, and we scaled it down to just headshots. And I think we're right around 100 fathead fans. So it's awesome. It's awesome.
That's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
So you kind of gave me a natural segue to talk about the preparation up until now and what an odd year this is. One of the things that's become a staple of and I guess maybe staple isn't even the right word. It's just been an expectation of this program and all the work that you guys put in, not within the confines of the season in order to be ready for the season. And I think, not surprisingly, it's one of the reasons why you're one of the toughest outs early in the year every year. This year, just kind of everything thrown on its head. You guys didn't really get the go-ahead to even do anything together as a team until July, and you couldn't be inside, which is a drag. Tell us about this year different from other years and what exactly you guys did to get ready.
Great question. I mean, when we left, I remember like it was yesterday. I walked out of the high school on March 13th, and I left via the Aux gym. And Riley Green and Rohan, two of our alumni were in the auxiliary gym shooting. And I just said, hey, we just got sent home and blah blah blah. And never would I have thought that on March 13th that, we would still be dealing with this now. I don't think anybody knew. And then, days led into weeks, led into months. And, it was obvious that we weren't going to have our normal summer preparation. The players continued to go to Montgomery Park, and when the rims were restored, because for a while here in Montgomery, just like every place else, the rims were taken down or there was caution tape around, so you really couldn't get out of your house. As everybody knows, everybody lived through it. But on July 16th, when Governor Murphy cleared us for outdoor basketball activity, that's when we started. We did small group instruction at Van Horn Park where, the Montgomery Rec Department was great to us this summer, allowing us access to the outdoor courts at Van Horn. And, we would get there at 6 o'clock in the morning, 6:15, 6:30, whatever it was. And, we would go through an hour and 15, hour and a half long workout before our small group workouts for the community would start with the little kids, because we didn't want to miss a beat there. Those kids wanted to train. Those kids needed to get out of their houses and do that type of stuff. So, we tried to do as much as we possibly could. I mean, I became an expert on two things this summer. One, transmission rate. I was all over the transmission rate. So as long as we were under 1, I knew we were still going to be able to do our things. And the weather. I mean, who would have thought with an indoor sport that we would have to worry about weather? But I was all over rain chances and threats of storms, and but that was the world that that we were living in at the time. And, things could have been a heck of a lot worse for us. But the players, just like always, man, they rise to the occasion here in Montgomery. And we got our work in, and it continued right into the fall. We were able to host 2, it was supposed to be 3 outside fall camps at Van Horn Park for 8 varsity teams. The third one, out of what has been another key phrase that people use all the time now, out of an abundance of caution, we canceled our third one because we had 2 incidences not involving Montgomery teams, with COVID exposure. So we did 2 camps, and then we were invited to a fall league up in Branchburg. So we got to play a few games up there. So we did as much as we possibly could. Was it the typical Montgomery summer? Absolutely not, but at least it was something.
It was funny. You just said you became an expert on 2 things. Now, typically, I know what you're going to say in these interviews. I had no clue where you were going, so I was scared to death. And also, if you keep going, maybe we could get sponsored by the Dark Sky app. That would be great. That'd be fantastic. So you talked about all this change. And already this year, as a program, we've seen you've had to pivot already. We're not even starting the season. You were supposed to play Wednesday. Then at that game, Rutgers Prep got moved to Saturday.
Yep.
Now Saturday, Rutgers Prep canceled because of situations in their program.
Yep.
And now you're playing Friday. From a head coach's standpoint, where I know that you would love nothing more than to just coach basketball.
Yeah, absolutely.
To have to be the CEO of this enterprise and be dealing with all this stuff, how has that affected you?
It's tougher, again, just because as a head coach, you always want to go into every game feeling as prepared as possible. And, the message that we've been preaching to the guys is that it's a fluid situation and that you just have to be ready for anything that's thrown at you. Since I started coaching here as the varsity coach, this is now my 16th year, I think, I have never gone into a game with zero film on an opponent. And that's going to be the situation on Friday. You mentioned we were supposed to start with Rutgers Prep yesterday, Tuesday. That game, they had asked us to move it to Saturday well before the season started, and we agreed. And then, you mentioned on it, so that game on Saturday got wiped out. And my thinking is that you got to strike while the iron's hot. Like, you have to try to get as many games in now because who knows what's going to happen, right? Like, who knows? We could go into another shutdown. Who knows?
Well, we learned from the Big Ten, right? I mean, the Big Ten said, well, let's just wait, and then we'll be good. And then they ended up playing half the amount of games. So.
Yes. So that was my thought process. I had a hole in the schedule, so I started calling around. John Myers is a great coach down in Bordentown. Said, hey, Kris, we'll play you. The only problem is, he goes, our game scrimmage got wiped out because of COVID exposure. Our first 3 opponents got wiped out because of COVID exposure, so we can't even swap film. So that's what we're doing. I mean, we're playing Phillipsburg, a tough Phillipsburg team on Thursday, tomorrow, and then Friday we're heading down to Bordentown, not having any idea what they run offensively, what they run defensively, what their personnel is. But, that's kind of what we're dealing with this year.
Before we get into this year's team, which is, certainly the most interesting parts of this for everybody, there's so much talk over this, abnormality of a time that we're dealing with about what we've all lost. And kids haven't gotten to do A, B, C, D, and E, and all of that is certainly true. I, the eternal optimist, shining sunshine on everything I possibly can, have thought for a while now that perhaps one of the things that we will have instilled in our kids during this time is this sense of adaptability and to, because typically change scares the heck out of people, right? I mean, you're used to it being a certain way and you being able to do certain things, and kids are not exempt from that at all.
Sure.
And now they have been asked to pivot and do things differently more than any time in their young lives, for sure, without maybe the coping skills that we all have as adults. Are you sensing where's your team at with that and how they've handled all of that, incessant transition?
I think they're doing the best they can. I mean, for us and everything we preach, I mean, we're sitting here courtside right now, and you see family written on the court. It's been a tough pivot, as you like to say, or you just said, to what we're dealing with now, in the sense that, I made the decision to go with pod practices. So, I haven't seen my freshman team other than the day that I went to go watch them try out. I haven't seen my JV team other than the day that I went to go watch them try out. We usually all practice together, as you know, the whole family atmosphere. Yep. They're, joking around in the locker room. And I know this isn't a unique situation here to Montgomery. All programs in New Jersey are dealing with that. But just because of what we preach and what we've preached since day one, it's just been tough. Like coming into the gym, and it's just, and a lot of times it's just me with the 12 players, with the 12 varsity players that are in this pod. Coach Molars, who oftentimes is our energy, and I rely on him for so much. He's dealing with a lot right now at his work with contact tracing and that type of stuff, and not being able to find employees to work certain shifts. So he hasn't been at practice as much. And I know the kids see that, and hey, is Coach Molars coming today? I'm like, guys, I hope so. I don't know. But they're adapting to it. I think tomorrow, yesterday in practice, Chris Rubio pulls me to the side and he's like, hey, are we going to do like our normal pregame? I said, yeah, why wouldn't you? And he's like, because there's going to be nobody here. I go, but Chris, you can't think like that. Yeah. Like go through your normal pregame, run out. The music's going to be going, do taps. I said the MIRE's going to be there. I go, we're going to create as much buzz as we possibly can for you guys, and you just have to try to tune all of that, extra stuff that was really cool and really exciting. You're just going to have to tune that out, though, and just kind of play for family and play for the guys that we have right here in this gym.
We're about to experience that thing, we heard over the summer. Well, so much in the NBA bubble was teams having to create their own energy, but we were kind of exempt from it because we had the fake crowd noise pumped in, so it was so hard to tell just how much of that energy was, like what was that situation? Like, we're going to get there, I guess. We'll find that out in like 36 hours. Yeah. But so let's talk about this team. This is now the 20,000 foot away view of the team as I look at you. You have a scholarship humongous big man who's a fantastic player. You have maybe the best point guard that's ever played here by the time he's done, and that's saying a lot, obviously. And you have a shooter on the outside who, in my opinion, has been as good as a junior as any junior shooter you've had, which also says a lot because of the history of that position in this program. With apologies to, JT Somborsky or to Noah Vlasic or whatever, you want to fill in the rest of the starting lineup. That's a great 3 places to start.
Sure, 100%. Yeah. You touched on it. Kris has been tremendous. He's as a freshman, he started with the freshman team. He was the first player that we've ever had to play on all 3 levels as a freshman. He started as a freshman, was dominating there. We moved him up to JV, and then by the end of the year, he was playing full-time varsity for us, and he got his first start or his first taste of varsity action. I remember in the primetime shootout against Moorestown late in the year. And his maturation and his progress in this program has been unbelievable, and it's a credit to him. It's a credit to how hard he's worked, both on the floor and off the floor. I mean, schools like Lafayette and schools like Columbia and schools like the service academies, all the schools that were showing a ton of interest or offered, they can't even offer you unless you're taking care of business off the court as well. So, it's a real credit to Kris and how hard he's worked. And, just a little side note too, we preach family, as we know, and it's all about team, but, because of what we're dealing with, here's a kid where if he put up the exact same numbers that he did last year as a junior during his senior year, and we all know numbers improve as a senior, he would have scored 1,000 points. But now, because we're restricted to just 15 games, not that we preach individual statistics, but getting your name up there on that board,
that's pretty cool.
That's a pretty cool thing. So he's going to miss out on that opportunity, but never said it's the furthest thing from his mind. But it's also just something that I'd like to get out there and just let people know that this would have been, a 1,000-point score. And then you look to Ryan Curry, and you said it, man, and I've had some unbelievable point guards, back in my first year, starting with Kevin Tarka, and the list goes on, Ryan McCoy and Chase Ta and Tim Urineff and Matt Remsen. But Ryan's tough, man. We talk all the time about just being an assassin on the floor and willing to do anything to win the game, and that's Ryan's mentality.
You said it, and I want to jump in there for a second because we had never used that word to describe him there, but I don't know that there's a better word to describe him. Throughout all those guys that you had mentioned, none of them, maybe Chase a little bit at the end, the very tail end of his sophomore year, was doing what Curry was doing as a sophomore.
100%.
The confidence to be able to offensively take over a game, and you looked at that and you're like, oh.
Yeah. I mean, let's go back to the Rutgers prep game when he was a freshman.
Yeah.
He hits 3 huge threes in that game, So, I mean, he's got it, man. He's got, I mean, it's so cliche, but he's got it. Whatever
I was just going to say that, whatever that
is. He's really, really just a really good player. And then you talked about Matt Prescott, who you go back and you watch film of him last year getting his first real taste of varsity action. He's our best off the ball cutter. He'll step up and he'll handle the basketball if we need him to. And he's a knockdown 3-point shooter. So I mean, when you have Ryan and you have Kris, where a lot of teams are going to double or even triple team them. If you can set your feet and rise and fire and knock down that shot consistently, you're going to score a lot of points. We're going to be a tough team, and we should win a lot of games.
The other thing that, again, 20,000-foot view, that makes you guys very tough, I think, is as you look across the starters and then into your first couple of guys off the bench, the Josh Morris, we'll talk about in a second, and Aryan Gordy, like, you don't suffer from James Harden and Russell Westbrook playing on the same team. You know what I mean? Like, it seems like just your division of talent and the high level of talent that you have all like play a different role on the team. Sometimes because of their physical makeup, sometimes just because of their skill set.
Sure.
And then to be able to go into the bench. And again, my opinion, having watched enough high school sports to choke a horse, when you have a good big, if you only have one, you have a problem. If you only have one ball handler, you probably have a problem when you get into the later parts of the season. This year, you have another. I mean, I don't even know how tall Gordy is now. I mean,
6'8", yeah.
6 a lot.
Yeah.
Coming off the bench, and you have Josh Moore, a freshman, with a handle that's going to be, by the time he gets through his 4 years, is going to be a wizard. Talk about just the diverse skill set of all of your guys and how that it makes you, I think, tougher. Yeah,
I mean, we talked about the 3 guys already, that you asked about, in Kris and Ryan and Matt, but we also bring back another starter, Noah Vlasic, a senior captain that is just kind of that toughness kid, and really plays really good defense, gets us tough rebounds. And he's really worked on his outside shot. I mean, he's got a really, really good looking outside shot. We plead with him all the time, like, Noah, take that shot, especially if they're doubling Kris and we kick it out to you, be ready to rise and fire and knock that down. So he's a really, really important piece. I know we're not allowed to have people come through practice, but, if you were walking through the hallway and you hear somebody yelling, most likely it's going to be Noah, yelling at guys to pick up their energy and pick up their enthusiasm and that type of stuff. So that's huge for us. And then our 5th starter, JT Somborsky, is a sophomore, and just he's like a throwback to like a Colin Geary, to like a Matt Kovacs, a guy that just like kind of lives the game. He loves basketball, he watches basketball, and that allows him to just kind of be in the right places that we need him to be, defensively and offensively, and he's a really, really good shooter, and he's going to knock down a lot of big shots for us this year. He's another one that we're like, hey, keep shooting, man, keep shooting. We want you in that situation. We want you taking those shots. So, those two guys are really going to help us. And then you talked about the bench, to be able to bring in, a 6'8" guy off the bench and Gortz, it really, really helps us. Gordy stepped up last year when we had some injuries and some other things going on, and he got a big start against PDS, and he was unbelievable in that game. Played 30 out of 32 minutes, had 6 or 8 points, 5 or 6 blocks, 8 rebounds, stuff like that. Just a really good stat line. And then I think he started thinking too much and just, started putting undue pressure on himself instead of just playing. Because we knew we had found a diamond in the rough with him. But the pressure of certain moments last year kind of got the better of him a little bit, and we just thought it would be best just to kind of sit him down and just kind of let him watch a little bit. But this year, we don't have that luxury. We graduated some guys. So now we're going to be counting on him to really step up and play big minutes, and I know he's going to be ready. And then you talked about Josh Moore, and Josh, we've seen him grow up through this program, and he's got a really, really good handle, ultra quick. He wants to be good, like you can tell, like he's just processing. He's not a loud kid, we're pleading with him, like, Josh, in this defense that we run, like, you got to talk, you got to communicate, and you could tell he's a little apprehensive, but the skills are there. Like, the skill set is there for him to be a really, really good high school basketball player.
It's, well, obviously this is not why you do it, but it's certainly one of the things that I get excited about for some reason internally every year. Like, I don't think I've ever been around your program where you haven't had a freshman play significant minutes.
Yeah.
And I know that's because you are so aware of how important, that is to get those guys experience. But just from I love seeing what's still in the pipeline here coming, because, there's so many coaches that just won't do that. And they just won't. And every year there's one or two, and you found a way to keep it rolling. I love it.
Some people would say I'm a little bit psycho, because, I could take you through our 8th, our 7th, our 6th, our 5th, and our 4th grade travel programs if you'd like me to as well. But that'll be another interview.
Coach, well, see, now we're kind of screwed here, because I can't even end the first interview the way that we always end it, because it can't be county conference and state anymore. It can't be. So now maybe I'm actually not screwed. I'm unscrewed, as they say. This is the 1 year where you can't answer that way. So what are the goals for this team?
Well, so that's a good question. I actually thought about that the other day. I knew this question was coming. So, the Skyland Conference decided they weren't going to recognize division champions. But if everybody gets through their allotment of games, there's no reason that you can't claim to be a conference champion if your record within conference dictates that. So I would still say that we're competing for a conference championship. Obviously, the counties are done. And then, the ADs, give them credit. They got together and they said, let's let these kids compete for something. So we're doing the first ever Skyland Conference tournament. And I think I'm not familiar with all the rules, but I believe that the ADs are going to separate all the teams in the Skyland Conference, all 4 divisions, into 3 different brackets, with bigger schools with whatever record, bigger schools and medium-sized schools with whatever record, and then your smaller schools and maybe teams that struggle a little bit this year will be in the 3rd bracket. And then they're going to play it out. You're guaranteed 3 games, winners and losers bracket, and that's going to be the first week in March, and that'll take us right up to March 5th or 6th, whatever that Saturday is, which, according to the NJSIAA, is the last possible day for us to play basketball with them, with anything that they kind of sponsor. So, we're competing for those 2 things, which is great. It's something. We're playing. More so than that, this is probably what you wanted me to say, something different. More so than that, it's just we're playing every day for each other, which, you may say, well, aren't you always doing that? But it's totally different. It's totally different this year. I talked about pod practices. and guys that we're not going to talk about today on the MIRE, whether it's Kerry Wong or Brian Somborsky or Alex Pendris or Matt Levy or James Moore. Those 5 young men on a normal year would be practicing over here with Coach Bassford. If I needed some bodies, I'd call them over here. They'd be sitting on the bench for a varsity game. They would get their names up there, but they would still have the JV game. They would still have 32 minutes to play. And I sat these guys down in a preseason team Zoom, and I just said, this is your role for me this year. Right, wrong, or indifferent, this is what we're choosing to do to give us the best opportunity to complete a season. We're going to go with pod practices and 3 separate rosters for the first time ever. No swing players. Can you buy into that? And all of them without question, coach, whatever you need. Coach, whatever you need. So those 5 guys, they come to this court each and every day. And they bust it, and they kill it, and they give absolutely everything that they can, knowing that at the end of the day, they're probably not going to play in a game. And you wouldn't hear anything from them. They're totally happy. They're totally content. They want to be a part of that word. They want to be a part of this family, and they want to be part of Montgomery basketball. And that is what this program is about, and that is what is so special, and that is what we're playing for this year.
Well, it's a season on fast forward, as they say, because we're, you're used to having the longest season, going, and now it's like it feels like the thing is 3/4 over before we even get started.
Six weeks left.
That's it. So, Coach, can't thank you enough for sitting down with us. Best of luck on this season. I hope to God that we, get to follow you, everywhere you go, and that we get, 13, 14, 15 games, however many we can get in here, and everybody are good little boys and girls when they're away from school, and we can make this thing a reality.
Well, I thank you guys, too, for doing this and bringing our parents and our, I always love my alumni, but this year especially the parents who aren't going to be in the gym. Without you guys, this would be a really, really tough situation for them. So I appreciate the MIRE, as I always do. You guys do a tremendous job, and thank you for doing it.
Our pleasure. It's the head coach of the boys basketball team here at Montgomery, Kris Grundy, and we are going to take a break. We'll be back with the rest of the MIRE pregame show, and then we are going to have tip-off, finally live, boys basketball here in Montgomery against Phillipsburg. It's opening night. Stay with us. You're caught in the MIRE. It's the Montgomery Internet Radio Experience.